Hey, I've made this video to show you what training often looks like in books. It often in books and on workshops and on things you'll read on social media, it sounds like training is a linear process where you do step one, you do step two, you do step three, but that's not the reality of it. So here I am with Ren. I'm using this bush here as practice because it's got a lot of exciting scent in it. But it's quite a contained area, so the scent will keep her in there. And what we're practicing is when I whistle her out of the bush, there will be something good for her. Sometimes it's food, sometimes it's a little toy, but there will be something so that when I give her her turn whistle and get her back, but you can see she's really excited. She can't necessarily listen to me at the moment. It's like really difficult for her. So how would I tell if what I'm doing is working? Because this looks like what I'm doing is just letting my dog run amok in the bush and enjoy herself, and there's very little in the way of training going on. But actually, there's quite a lot of training going on, and the way I can tell if this is working or not is, does it get better or worse over time? Does she spend, over the time of this video, does she spend more time in the bush and less time with me, or does she start to spend more time with me and less time in the bush? Now, I am trying to get her to not just run off into the bush just because. Whenever she comes out, I want her to engage with me. So here, she's so excited she can't. I'd asked her for a stop, she couldn't do it. Then I'd made a noise to try and get her attention. Then I did another stop, and you could see couldn't sit. That's how excited she was. But this is like 2 minutes or so into a video that's 7 minutes long. So let's see. And this is particularly challenging. You can see the frost on the ground. So the scent here is more intense than it normally would be. So the ground temperature is at freezing, but the air temperature on this particular day was a little bit above freezing. And that would mean that all the scents are very intense and very close to the ground, which is why she's finding it so hard. I do have to say, with this particular little dog, it's easier for her to come away from a running deer than it is for her to come out of this particular bush. So this is hard. What I'm doing, the training I'm doing here with her, is difficult for her to do. And sometimes I reward her with food, especially if there's people walking by with other dogs, because she gets very annoyed if she thinks a dog is going to take her toy away from her. So I don't put out toys if there are people going by with other dogs, which there quite often are. But the biggest reward here, what I'm mostly using to reward her coming out of the bush, is sending her back into it. That's the biggest reward by far. So rewards don't even have to be food or toys or any sort of interaction with you. In this scenario where I am here, actually the best reward I can offer this particular dog is the opportunity to go back in the bush again. But look at what's happening now. So she is coming back faster. I'm trying to send her to retrieve the toy behind her. She goes off completely in the wrong direction. And again, this is good information. It's just her arousal here is very high, so it's hard for her to be accurate. And so whenever she's done a retrieve, I want her to wait. I don't want her to just take off again. So I send her back into the bush. But what's happening in this video over time is she's more able to wait to be sent. She's doing less fiddling around. She can retrieve the toys. She might not be as accurate about being directed as she would be some of the time, but she can do it. What she's not doing is running right over the toy and then just heading off into the bush, which is what she would have done at one stage. She would have just, if I'd sent her towards a toy that was in the direction of the bush, she would have just like ignored the toy completely and run into the bush. Here she comes again. And I get her to do something. She's searching for something here, food or toys, foods maybe. I want her to come out. I want her to do something with me before I send her back. You can see she's much more able to look at me. She's able to sit. And that's how I know that this training is helpful for her. 100% it looks chaotic. And it's not as fancy as all the people I see with their dogs walking perfectly to heel. And there's not an awful lot of obedience here, but I don't need obedience here. What I need her to be able to do is keep me on her radar even when there is a lot of excitement around. Now, I've been training this particular dog for a long time now, and that's why we've built up this level of trust. When she was much younger, this would not have been possible, and I would have been training her on a line and doing things very, very differently. But right now, she is able to cope better with going in the bush and coming out of the bush. So I've added it back into our regular place to do training. And for her, she just loves it. As far as she's concerned, I'm just like pretty much letting her do what she wants. And I am. But I'm also asking her to do things for me. And the deal is she retrieves the toy. She doesn't just ignore it and run back into the bush. She has to retrieve the toy. She has to wait until I send her into the bush, and then she gets the opportunity to run around in there and sniff.